have a story to tell. Did you know, for example, this really got our Barbadian colleagues excited, that in 1917, Prescott, on his way back from South America, on his way to the north, back to North America, made a pit stop in Barbados. Why? He wanted to visit the sanitarium that was started and was being operated by the late and the great Dr. Charles Cave. How many of you have ever heard the name Dr. Charles Cave? And when Elder Prescott visited the sanitarium where hydrotherapy and massages and all of that were taking place, he was absolutely amazed. So much so that Dr. Floyd Greenleaf, who wrote a massive 2-volume work on the history of our church in Latin America and the Caribbean, when he was commenting on Dr. Cave's work there, he said at that time in our church's history, it was one of the best healthcare facilities anywhere in the world field. We have a story to tell. Coming out of our research center is a bi-monthly newsletter, and the one that covers the end of the year, December 2013 and into January of this year, is my attempt as the director in my short lead article to further pan-Caribbeanize the center, and that is to reach out to the region at large. For with 4 such facilities in our division, you can readily tell from the location of the other 3 which language group they seek to serve. They are in Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Mexico. What language group is that? Ah, claro, muy bien.
Am I talking theory? Yes. For those who only want a knowledge of Jesus, or just want to have a little past relationship with Jesus, yeah, you're going to say that's unrealistic, because remember, you don't have a personal connect with Jesus. I'm telling you. And it ain't practical for you. You prefer just the theory about him. And you will sit here and say, that's unrealistic. No, it's not. Go love your wife, act Christian towards her, and watch her change. Go act that way towards your husband and say, I choose to be Christian in this marriage. I choose not to cuss her out. How many of you know that sometimes church people cuss? Raise your hand, okay? Okay. I want you to look at the person beside them and tell them, stop it, don't do it no more. Yeah, they cuss. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Talking about, excuse my French. Ain't no French about that. Nothing French. That's English. Hey, but you live as a Christian. When you live as a Christian, you don't cuss your spouse out. When you live as a Christian, you don't hurt your kids. When you live as a Christian, practically, you act sensible on your job. Hey guys, look at me, everybody. Because remember, on the other side of the ledger, if you choose not to live the life of Christ out of your personal connection with him and practically applying this Christianity, then all Jesus is theory.
So without his blood, his red ruby blood flowing forth in our veins and accepting it by faith, we too would be a castaway, Spurgeon would say. Because of his faithfulness that we are considered faithful. It's because of his love that we are lovable. It's because of his tender mercy that we are transformed into his likeness. It's because of his grace that we are guaranteed eternal life. I wish I had somebody here this morning who would help me this morning to praise the Lord. Thanking the Lord for his goodness. For when, you see my friend, when we give him the praise, we have joy in the midst of sorrow, courage in the midst of conflict, peace in the midst of persecution, strength in the midst of weakness, satisfaction in the midst of suffering, comfort in the midst of calamities, consolation in the midst of confusion, assurance in the midst of agonies, hope in the midst of heartaches, foundation in the midst of frustration, benefits in the midst of our burdens, delight in the midst of our disappointment, perfection in the midst of our pressure,